You're tuned to Home Sweet Home. And now, here's Russ McClellan.
Hey, good Saturday morning to you. Welcome to Home Sweet Home with Russ McClellan and friends. Hey, man, what a month or so we've had. Here we are, Saturday in April. And I'm very fortunate this morning. I want to introduce a good friend of mine. We've known each other a long time. Hey, good morning, Fletcher Ellingson. Thanks for calling into Home Sweet Home.
Hey, my pleasure. Good to be with you this morning, Russ.
A lot of people know Fletcher in North Central Washington, but Fletcher, you have clients, I think, all over the world. So, basically what you do is you're a coach, a speaker, an entrepreneur, the founder of the Ellingson Enterprises, a coaching and training company. Basically, you help build business owners break free from financial struggle, management overwhelm, and persistent worry so you can spend more time doing what they are doing, what they want to do, right? I mean, basically what you do is come at problems with a solution-based mindset, and maybe you could just kind of expand on what you do before we dive in.
Yeah, in a nutshell, what we do is we help people create freedom around health, wealth, and relationships because, nothing feels better than freedom. And really, that's really what people are looking for. A lot of times when I'm working with somebody and they've got a tough decision to make and they're agonizing over this decision and they finally make that decision and they get that new result, one of the first things they say to me is, oh my gosh, I feel so free. And that's what we all want. We want that sense of freedom.
Yeah, like shackles around our ankles in life, not being able to move now, and no more so than our lovely COVID-19 partner in life these days. What's your take on all that? What do you think's going on here with everybody emotionally, financially? What's your 30,000-foot level? And then let's dive into how we can help some people today.
Yeah, you bet. So, I've been talking with a lot of people, checking in with them, like, how are you doing with this? Just how are you feeling in general? And there's a high level of concern, worry, fear about the financial, the economical impacts. Ironically, though, a lot of people are experiencing some relief with this imposed pause. Like I've met a number of people who are getting more sleep. They're just totally chilling out, catching up on things around the house, and getting to the point even of boredom, which is really important. And we'll talk about this later because that restriction, that temporary boredom, oftentimes breeds creativity and ingenuity.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, being able to spend time with your friends and family at home, making sure you're practicing what we need to practice with the social distancing. Isn't it funny in times of adversity we invent words and put words together that have never existed before?
Yep, social distancing.
Social distancing.
Never heard it before.
We'll never forget, I'm sure, as we look back in time. And I was reflecting on a lot of adversity, just looking at from a historical perspective. And there was a saying, Satima Nali, that we had on our show last month. He said, tough times don't last, tough people do. And
I love that.
And it's true. I mean, at the end of the day, our grandparents or great-grandparents, had to go storm the beaches of Normandy. We have to storm our couch and hang out with our family. So
that's right.
It doesn't make it any easier necessarily, but relatively speaking, to storming the beaches at Normandy, I'm pretty sure it's easier from a logical perspective. But isn't it true? And what I was leaning into, Fletcher, isn't it true that perception of reality in our mind, if we're not careful, our mind's a trickster, and we can go all kinds of places we shouldn't go if we're left to our own devices, without purpose, without a plan.
Absolutely. And here's what people really need to understand is the mind cannot tell the difference between what's happening in the physical world as opposed to what's happening in our imagination. It reacts emotionally as if they're the same thing. And so what people would be served well to realize is that they need to understand what's happening to their minds psychologically during this time. And when they realize that, they can then make different decisions that will serve them well. And what I mean specifically about that is whatever you focus on, you feel. And I check in with the news sources once in a while, but not very much because it's all doom and gloom. Right. And if you're reading all the doom and gloom, your mind, again, whatever you focus on, you feel, it begins to experience the fear emotions. It begins to worry. It becomes extremely concerned. It becomes anxious, depressed. And then what's really terrible about that, being in that position, is then you begin to act out of those emotions, and you get the results, which then take you right back to focus on those negative results, experiencing the emotions. So just this wheel that goes all around and around and around, and it leaves you quite desperate and hopeless and helpless.
Yeah, so let me ask you, when you say your mind, and I'll break this down a little bit, you say your mind can't tell the difference between a physical reality and an imagination reality. Can you kind of peel the layers back on that and explain that a little bit more in detail?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's say the easiest way to illustrate this is we all love to go to the movies. And when we go to the movies, let's say we're going to an adventure movie, Indiana Jones maybe, and there's at some point in the movie, you're on the edge of your seat. I mean, you are like just poised and on the edge of your seat because you don't know what's happened, right? You're just like, this is so, it might be scary, it might be riveting, and then 10 minutes later, you might be laughing hysterically at something that happens, right? And then another 10 minutes later, you might be moved to tears about what just happened on the screen. Now, none of that is real. It's just a movie playing on a screen. They're not even real people. We know they're actors. There's people with cameras and calling cut. There's the blooper reel because of the mistakes they're making, and they're cracking up in between scenes. But our mind is focused on what it sees and what it thinks is real, and therefore releases all the chemicals that go along with what it perceives to be real. So when we're seeing something scary or reading a scary headline, we activate fear and stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. And those cortisol and adrenaline, they do have a great purpose. They're in times of when we're in fight or flight to get us to safety.
Right.
But then when you get to safety, your body is supposed to calm down, right? It's supposed to go. The parasympathetic is supposed to kick in and get you back to calm. But that's not what happens when we're in a situation like with this COVID-19, where we're constantly focusing on the fear, constantly focusing on what's not going well. And so those chemicals don't shut off, and you're just constantly feeling stressed out. You're experiencing the cortisol and adrenaline, which again disrupt your sleep, make you depressed, make you anxious. And so that's why we've got to really pay attention to what we are focused on.
All right. So tell me why it is that it's easier to do things that make us feel like crap than it is to do things that make us feel good, like exercise and eat right and, stay positive and have goals and write them down and all those things that we all know for the most part. Probably been told 1,000 times if you've been told once. Your goals come true if you write them down, more so than if you just think about them once in a while. But it seems to me it's sure easy to sit on the couch, eat bonbons, ice cream, and watch Scooby-Doo.
And I love this question. It's such a great question and the answer is simply because we have become extremely practiced at the former. We're extremely practiced at not engaging our emotions. We're extremely practiced on the things that seem easier. And we've mastered that skill. We've mastered the skill of sitting on the couch and eating bonbons or complaining or judging or stressing out. These are habitual patterns in our life, and we've just simply become masters at them, so we don't even have to think about it. They're second nature to us.
Almost instinctual.
Yep, you got it.
Yeah, I used to call it the TRex theory. Have you ever heard it, described that way, where your brain's a trickster and, thousands of years ago, we're sticking our head out of a cave and boom, dinosaur eats you. There were some real good reasons to be scared back then.
Yeah, that's right.
Pretty sure there's not a lot of T-Rexes running around, though, but now we have the invisible COVID-19, which is tough because it's an enemy that we can't see. I get it. It sucks.
Yes.
And so for people that are like, I don't like you, Russ, you're too positive, too optimistic, you're not being a realist. When we look at the range of emotion, the range of risk tolerance, the range of, to your point, when people judge from the bleacher seats, and they're so worried about what other people are doing and how other people, although, hey, I get it. If people aren't following a social distancing pattern, or, if they're renegades, and they're out there causing problems and spreading a virus, that's not good, right? But in general, it is true that you can see so much judgment of other people. And I mean, literally, just by being optimistic, you can get judged. Where does that come from? And is it the crab pot mentality or the herd mentality? What is it about people? And not everyone. There's some tremendously cool things that are happening. We got about a minute in the segment, Fletch. So,
sure. So again, it comes back to the reason people are like that is because it's been modeled for them. It was totally been modeled for them, and they simply saw it growing up. They begin to implement it. It triggers emotions and feelings, actions, results, which then go back to their beliefs and reinforces the feelings, and you're back on the cycle again. It literally is what we've been modeled. We taught it, and they simply haven't had a chance to interrupt that pattern, which is what is needed.
Yeah, and if there's a positive, right, in times of adversity, it might be that we have the time when we're not running and gunning from morning till night to reflect on some of these behavioral patterns. If we're listening to this show or others that are positive, maybe it's a good time to say, hey, I've been down the wrong road. I've been creating a lot of my own stress by all this negativity. I'm going to try to use this opportunity to reclaim some of my positivity. Hey, when we come back in just a couple minutes, we're going to run a couple commercials, Fletcher. I appreciate you calling in. We got 4 segments on this show, Home Sweet Home with Russ, McClellan, and Friends. And I got Fletcher Ellingson, who's a business coach, a life coach on the air, and I'm lucky to have you. I appreciate you getting on this Saturday in April. We'll be back in just a few minutes.
Home Sweet Home. Thanks, Keller Williams. I love my dream home.